Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that has been on my mind for a long time. I kind of looked back over my health journey over the last decade and beyond, and thought about all the changes that I have made in my diet and in my life. And it really brought to mind all of the things that I previously had some issues with that have just disappeared. And so I wanted to just share those just as kind of a normal girl. I am, so let me just do all my disclaimers. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a fitness coach. I'm not a health coach. I'm not a doctor. I am none of those things. I'm just a normal person that does their own research and tries to figure out what works for my body and how to best take care of myself. So what I am is I am a 54-year-old woman. I kind of started on this, I would say, in my 40s. So if you're a young person, I think there's this thing that happens as you get older. When you're in your 20s, you can usually get away with almost anything. As you get close to 30, you might notice some things changing. Some women, that's when their first gray hair appears on their head. They maybe notice some lines appearing around their eyes when they smile or in their forehead. But when you get to your 40s, your body is going to let you know that it either likes the way you treated it or it doesn't like it. I think the 40s are the decade where your body tells the truth. And then in your 50s, things change even further. So just for me personally, I'm postmenopausal. I don't do any hormones. I do work out regularly. That to me is an absolute non-negotiable, and it's become even more so every year that goes on. But I, a number of years ago, gave up sugar as a general everyday habit. So that's not to say that I won't have a piece of birthday cake or on occasion have a piece of dark chocolate or some M&Ms. But as a general rule, sugar is not around my house. I don't put it in my coffee. I don't drink sodas with sugar in it. I do eat some fruit, but it is not often, and usually only certain types of fruit. I have to be careful with it. And so just as a general rule, I am not having sugar on a daily basis. And I wanted to go through all the changes that I have looked at over the last decade that I'm like, wow, I don't deal with that anymore. I don't deal with this anymore. Wow, this stopped and this stopped. So first and foremost, I don't know the cause. I had visited a doctor about this, but we never got to a actual diagnosis. But I used to get skin rashes, and they were itchy and they were fairly frequent. I would get some on my eyelids, my elbow, some on my hand in between my thumb and my pointer finger. I used to get a rash down on my leg that would develop. And I went to a doctor. I thought it was psoriasis. He was like, doesn't look like psoriasis. He goes, I don't know what it is. So we tried a few things and nothing really worked. But what I did notice worked is, one, I started running. And I noticed that after I would run for a few days, I wouldn't itch. And I was like, well, this seems to be helping, so I'm going to do more of it. That was long before I gave up sugar. I still didn't see sugar as the culprit that it can be in most people's diet. So that was the one thing that went away. I do not deal with any little rashes that appear on my body on an ongoing basis anymore. That completely went away. Now, that said, I will tell you, if I am on, holiday or vacation, and I decide that I'm going to wake up and eat pancakes, and then later in the day, I'm going to have a margarita, and then I'm going to, have dessert that night, I might wake up feeling a little itchy the next day. And so it is definitely something that was related to sugar, and it completely went away. So that was a big one. The next thing that went away for me is sweating. Now, I don't want to say sweating in general, because I sweat when I work out and I sweat when it's appropriate, but I don't have drippy, sweaty armpits anymore. And I don't wake up, as a general rule, even in my 50s, I don't wake up with night sweats. And I used to feel just really kind of just never dry. Like my armpits, especially my right armpit, always felt like it was sweating. And when I gave up sugar, that went away. And it wasn't even something that I really noticed until, time passed. And then one day I just was like, man, I'm not, I can put on a silk blouse, wear just a normal amount of deodorant, and don't worry about getting, my armpits just drippy and wet, and I'm going to ruin a blouse or embarrass myself at a party or something like that. Next one, I don't get a bubbly, gurgly stomach anymore. So as a general rule, I don't have any gas, no flatulence. I don't go to bed with my tummy hurting. I don't feel like, I don't feel bloated. None of that, all of that has gone away. I used to notice sometimes if I ate something sweet. I'm married to a wonderful man that for a period of time, he liked to have cookies and ice cream at night. And I would indulge and eat a little bit of ice cream and a half a chocolate chip cookie. And we did that for a long while, but I would notice sometimes I had to take an antacid before I went to bed because my tummy was just all upset. As a general rule, none of that ever happens. I don't remember the last time I took an antacid. It's been that long. I don't get any leg pain, and I don't get restless legs. So I used to get restless legs at night when I was going to bed. And it was specifically related to the amount of sugar that I had consumed during that day. I don't get any restless legs anymore. And I also have noticed that if I am on my feet, where I have to be on my feet, let's say most of the day, walking or whatever, if I had consumed a significant amount of sugar, and I think this just comes from general inflammation in the body, my legs, especially my thighs, would feel super achy, and I would want some form of compression on them. Like that's what would feel good to kind of take that ache away from them, would be some form of compression, like leg rolling or something like that. This was not related to workout. This was specifically related to consuming sugar and having inflammation probably throughout my body. Okay, so here's a fun one. The next thing that I have noticed that I don't get anymore is I don't have stinky feet. I remember a time in my 20s having a pair of canvas shoes and wearing, just my bare feet in those canvas shoes all day, and taking them off at my friend's house who was a big, shoes off in the house, and taking them off and going, oh my gosh, my feet smell terrible. And my shoes smelled terrible. Well, as a general rule, I don't have stinky feet. I can wear canvas shoes or any kind of shoe I want. I can have socks, no socks, it doesn't matter. My feet are, they just are not sweating the way they were when I used to consume a lot of sugar. The next is I no longer feel like I'm walking through the day and I have that film on my teeth. I don't get that film on my teeth anymore because that comes about from the residue that's left in my mouth, from my mouth trying to break down the sugars that I put in it and bring that mouth back into homeostasis. I don't get that anymore, which is a wonderful feeling. You know, I don't, that was just such a gross feeling if you're, you know, maybe you're at at work and you ate a donut and then you didn't have an opportunity to brush your teeth right afterwards, and so you're walking around going, this just doesn't feel good. So that is gone. I don't get cavities. I don't know the last time I was diagnosed with a cavity. And in fact, some of the small cavities, because I still have my wisdom teeth, never had them taken out when I was younger. So even way in the back, I have a wisdom tooth that had developed a cavity on it. They never treated it, and it has not progressed, and it has probably reversed itself to some extent. I know that's controversial, so, you know, whatever. You can have an opinion or not have an opinion on that, but it has for sure not progressed to the point that it's bothering me anymore. I also used to get really intense hunger. So I would put a little bit of sugar in my coffee in the morning. And when I talk about a little bit of sugar, it was probably, no joke, maybe a half to a quarter of a teaspoon. It was just a little tiny bit to sweeten up, but I would have several cups of coffee that way. And I would get intense hunger and become really shaky, where my blood sugars had dropped pretty dramatically, and that's from you giving your body a bunch of sugar, and then it is trying to work on that, and there's not anything else, and then you get these blood sugar swings. And so that was definitely happening to me almost on a daily basis. And what was the most embarrassing part about that was if I was at work or I was in a meeting or something, and maybe I hadn't eaten some good protein, but I had consumed my coffee with this little bit of sugar in it, my stomach would just rumble. It would be so loud. It was embarrassing and whatever, and then I would start to get shaky. I did not know what was happening, but that has completely gone away. I still every morning have several cups of coffee. I do not have any sugar in it. Okay, so next. And this is something that I feel like, you know, continues as you age to be a problem. Some people have more or less of a problem, but sometimes that brain fog or the trouble finding the word that your brain's not finding the word that you need to put in the sentence. So brain fog is so intense when you are consuming sugar on a regular basis, especially once you get to a certain age. I would highly recommend anybody that wants to help their elderly parent that is struggling with brain fog of any sort to encourage them to get rid of as much sugar in their diet. They are going to be brighter, they are going to be more alert, they are going to be better able to communicate. So I'm definitely a big fan of that. So here's another one that I just kind of noticed, and I don't know how, you know, or what to think about this, but I used to be one of those people that was, you know, like constantly like bouncing my legs and kind of, you know, just moving around a lot, and felt like I had a lot of energy that I needed to get rid of. That's gone away. I rarely feel the need to sit. I mean, I'm still a very active person, but I rarely feel the need to sit and bounce a leg or swing a foot or do any of those kind of things. My body doesn't feel the need to do that anymore, and that is something that just kind of went away And the reason I put that on this list is because I notice if I eat sugar. And I'll give you an example. One of the gals that I work with had a birthday the other day. She had strawberry shortcake. I had a little bit of it. It was delicious. And I was sitting there talking with them, and then all of a sudden I noticed I'm swinging and bouncing my leg again. But as a general rule, when I am not consuming any kind of sugar, that just completely goes away. So I'm gonna talk about two more things that I think are really big ones, and I think a lot of people just do not connect this to their consumption of sugar at all. One is that in my family especially, we get headaches, both migraine headaches and tension headaches. So tension headaches may be in the back right here, or a migraine headache, which is typically behind one or both of the eyes. Migraine headaches, if you've ever had one, I mean, my heart goes out to anybody who suffers from migraine headaches. I would get them on occasion, but I was able to feel them coming on, and I would give myself enough Tylenol or some form of headache medicine to knock it out. My youngest son got them pretty severely, and what was the strangest thing about his headaches is he would mostly get them around the holidays. And I was like, well, how does this make any sense? You know, he's not at school, he's more relaxed, he's around his family, he doesn't have pressure on him, you know, like little kids do at school. Well, we took him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, hey, I am not a headache doctor. He goes, but I get migraine headaches myself, and so I have a special interest in them. And he said, have you considered that it's possibly related to his consumption of sugar? And I was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense, because what do you do on holidays, right? You've got, you know, some good eating around holidays, right? So our Christmas, we've got Christmas candy and Christmas cookies and cakes and pies and all of that kind of stuff. Well, it made sense that there was a lot more of that going on. Plus, for a little kid, maybe a lot less of his normal expenditure of energy, right? So whereas when he's at school, maybe he would be at PE or doing sports, so he is doing some kind of cardio that's burning off the extra sugar. But at home, he was, you know, playing video games and hanging around with his family and doing that kind of thing, and not, you know, burning it off. So he suffered tremendously from migraines. It was a long journey for us to really come to an understanding that sugar played a huge role in this. So it started when he was a little kid, and then he got a diagnosis, and we actually ended up at a pediatric neurologist who prescribed him a very expensive preventative, as well as if you're a parent who's ever used the nasal sprays, you have to do that, because people that get severe migraines, they start throwing up, they can't keep any medication down. It was a whole journey. And then in his teenage years, he became very conscious of his own diet and began to connect it to his consumption of sugar. And he has become really a model for the family in terms of how he manages his own sugar consumption today to you know, keep himself well. And he does not deal with migraines anymore now that he has cut his sugar intake into a very minimal amount. And I just want to be crystal clear. You know, I know there may be people in the comments that basically say, well, everything breaks down into sugar. Yes, I understand that, right? So what we're really talking about is we're talking about where you're going to find table sugar or high fructose corn syrup, or even fruit sugars like fruit juice, orange juice, anything where you're getting a large dose of sugar that is divorced from the fiber. So fiber, if you have, if you're eating a piece of watermelon or you're eating an apple, it has sugar in it, but it also has fiber in it. So that fiber can slow the rate of absorption that sugar is going into your body. And that doesn't happen if you're drinking a Pepsi or a Coke or some other soft drink, or you're drinking a glass of fruit juice, right? So, when we talk about sugar, we're not talking about that we don't eat carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates even, because we want to, if we're going to take something like that into our body, we want it to be where it's going to break down slower and release that sugar slower into the bloodstream, so that our body has time to process it, right? And not give ourselves a big heavy dose of sugar. Well, here's the one thing that I think that a lot of people don't consider, and I hear a lot of talk about anxiety today. In my growing up years, we probably thought of anxiety as stress or pressure, maybe societal pressure, that kind of thing. But one of the things that I noticed that is pretty distinct in myself, I know 100% for my body and just the way my body works, that I can fall easily into patterns of looping negative thoughts when I am consuming sugar on any type of a regular basis. In fact, if I find myself kind of hyper focused on something negative in my life, maybe a fight I had with my husband, or something going on in the family, or something going on at work, or whatever, and I can't seem to release it and just let it go and move on with life, right? Then I am going to look back at, what did you eat? Like, what did you put in your diet? Have you been having too much sugar? Because if you've been having too much sugar, Lori, you're going to easily fall into a pattern of looping negative thoughts. I hate that. I mean, of all of the things that I mentioned here, which are all terrible, like the brain fog is terrible, the sweating is terrible, the skin rashes are terrible. Of all of those things, I think the worst thing for me personally is kind of that hyper focus in a looping negative pattern. And sugar has such a profound effect for me personally on my brain that I just have been terrified of allowing it back into my life in any kind of a regular basis. I am just really careful. And if I am going to have sugar, if I'm going to celebrate somebody's birthday, or I'm going to, do something else, have a margarita or whatever, you better bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to be burning it off with some cardio or a run or something to kind of bring my body back to homeostasis. And one of the things that I think this channel is really about is, learning to love and accept ourselves. And that's all of ourselves, not be mad, like, well, why are you like that? Other people can do this, that, and the other. Why can't you do it? No, that's not love. And so this channel is really about, kind of accepting ourselves and loving ourselves and understanding that, just because somebody else can do something doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you either. So anyway, I hope that me sharing all of this just as kind of this regular Joe, that if somebody gets something out of this, that sugar is crazy. I mean, it's addictive. There are lots of influencers and people that have big giant social media channels that talk about the dangers of sugar consumption and get really into the science of it. That's not me. I'm just sharing you my own personal experience and how I went from literally drinking multiple cans of Dr. Pepper a day. I did that in my 20s and my 30s. I love Dr. Pepper. And then I loved Coke for a while. And then I loved, putting sweetener and having sweet stuff in my coffee. And then I loved some cookies and some, I have been down that road, and it is just not worth it. There are too many, there is nothing tastes as good as feeling good. So anytime, I get tempted to, somebody brings donuts to work, or somebody has, something, I don't want it. I'm not interested anymore. I don't care. I want to feel good. I don't want the diabetes. I don't want the skin rashes. I want my brain to function and be healthy and be sharp, for many, many years to come. And so sugar is something that I've had to say goodbye to. So I hope this helps you. I hope you found some value in it. If you're one of those people that you love your sugar, but you're curious about what kind of changes might happen, I would wholeheartedly encourage you. Just give it a little bit of time. Just try and, cut some of it out, and then go deeper and cut more of it out, and get rid of that. You're gonna feel so good, and you're gonna wake up one morning like I did, realizing that you don't have to deal with all of these things that you just thought were part of life, and they don't have to be. So I hope this helps you. Love you. Have a great day.